You're listening to the Broadway Podcast Network.
Hi, everyone. Welcome to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. I'm Heather Vickery.
And I am Alan Seals. Listen in as we chat with other successful people about successful people.
That's what happens when I pull up the script and you don't.
I was just watching a video about Super Mario remake, so I was like, and that's what happens. You know, offensive Italian accents. And listen in as we chat with other successful people about the risks they've taken and put themselves on a path to creative success.
You totally skipped the part about you and I starting off as perfect strangers who met by chance and embraced opportunity, but that's fine.
Okay, yeah, we can skip that. Heather, we don't have a guest today on purpose because we're bringing you one from the vault.
Absolutely, because we have had over 70 incredible guests on this show, and so many of them are out doing more and more incredible work. And today's guest is extra special. She's groundbreaking, trailblazing. We couldn't help but reshare Lili Thomas with you guys today.
Mm-hmm. There comes a point in everyone's podcast journey when they've just got a lot of episodes. And sometimes new listeners, hello, if you're new, may not go back and listen to the old episodes. So yes, we're bringing you back Lili Thomas because today, as we are recording this in late September, it was just announced that Lili Thomas is going to go into Gypsy, the upcoming revival with Audra McDonald and Danny Burstein that everyone is talking about.
I cannot wait.
Yeah. She's going to be Miss Mazeppa, which rhymes with Schleppa. That's how I know how to say it. She's going to be Miss Mazeppa.
Practicing for a good 15 minutes.
I know. She's going to be Miss Mazeppa alongside another incredible list of principal cast: Leslie Margarita, Jordan Tyson, Joy Woods, and as previously mentioned, Danny Burstein and Audra McDonald. But we're going to tell you her story again. We're bringing it back here because it deserves to be told, and it is timeless.
It is absolutely timeless. So when we first talked to Lili, she was playing Connor's mom in Dear Evan Hansen on the touring cast. And I actually got to see that show live. She was incredible, brought me to tears. And I know that was quite an emotional experience for her. You're going to hear all about that in the episode. We originally released this. It was episode 34 back February of 2023. So time sure does fly.
Jeez. Yeah. And then she also made history in November, December last year, 2023, as the first Asian American Mama Morton in Chicago on Broadway. That's episode 297 of my solo podcast, the theater podcast, where she and I dove into that. Yeah. So we'll link to that one in the show notes. But now, of course, we just want to bring back Lili's original story to you because she is in the news again and you need to hear about her.
Absolutely. Go enjoy Lili Thomas, y'all.
Lili Thomas is with us today. She's the child of two world-renowned classical musicians and made her own path in the arts, still saying F you to the musical side. So we'll get to that. She became a triple threat by training extensively in acting, singing, and dancing, in addition to, of course, learning several instruments. I guess you have to. Having played professionally on 6 different instruments all at the same time. Well, I don't know. That's like a one-man band. She recently completed the pre-Broadway run of Octet, is an acclaimed vocal coach, choreographer, director, and the hardest job of all, a parent of 2 young kids. She's currently playing Cynthia Murphy in the national tour of Dear Evan Hansen. Lili Thomas, so glad to have you here. Welcome.
Thanks for having me. This is so exciting.
So we were saying before we started recording that we had to warn you that Heather's mind is super, super dirty. So well, everything coming out of her mind is going to be perverted.
I wanted to comment on that because at the end of the show, it gets really heavy. And, when we come off stage and we're crying and, sobbing and have to get ready to make the shift to the next scene, sometimes that shift is really hard. So when I first joined the tour, my hair supervisor, Jess McGinty, she told me a dirty joke to get me to laugh so that I could I could shake the feeling quicker. And now it's become a ritual. And she tells me a dirty joke every day. And we do 8 shows a week. So every show, she tells me a new dirty joke at the end of my final scene before we go in for like the finale where we're all supposed to be happy by then. And there are some really, really great ones. So maybe at the end, I'll think of something I'll think of one to
please
share with
do.
you that I don't know what your level of appropriateness is on the show. So,
I think
It's
everything's
bottom of
appropriate.
the barrel, Lily.
all right.
Yeah,
Well, when you
yeah.
said that, I was like, I got to share some jokes. So,
Yes.
Yeah, we set a low bar. We're great. We're here to laugh.
Please do. I love that. So I actually saw the show in December with my 13-year-old, and you were amazing.
In
And
Chicago.
now I have
In
this whole new
Chicago.
perspective. In Chicago.
oh, great.
Yeah, yeah. So now I have this whole new perspective of what happened between the second to last scene and the last scene. So,
Right.
you know,
You're
the
like,
dirty
oh,
jokes.
how did she stop crying? Oh, she
She's
got told
thinking
some
of-
dirty jokes.
And I
Think of
have to
some
tell
teen
you,
theme, yeah.
I'll tell you a little secret. Hopefully, it'll make you feel good. I told my daughter we're going to get to interview some folks from the show. Maybe you can tell me who you really want to hear from, and you were the one she picked.
Really? From the
Yeah.
13-year-old? That's so
Yeah.
shocking.
Yeah.
It's really, it's been, my daughter's 11. So very similar age group. And it's interesting. She was a big fan of the show before I booked the show. And
Kids are such a pain in the ass.
it's so funny. It's like, I booked the part and she was like, oh, okay. Well, but tell me about the other people. Like, she's like, oh, that's kind of the most boring part in the show. But
Not
I'm
true.
really interested in all of the other ones, especially the kids. It's hard because, like in my mind, I'm not really an adult yet, even though I am, and I'm a parent. But like when I saw the show, I was like, oh, those women are old, old school, old moms. And here I am, and I'm like, oh, like the kids who are waiting outside at the stage door are usually like waiting for the kids, and they're like, oh, the parents, we don't care. We don't have to talk to them. So that actually means a lot that your
There you
daughter
go.
said that. It's really cute.
Yeah.
I actually am curious about that. Why did she? I mean, not that she shouldn't, but why was she into like one of the moms, right?
Okay, well, so interest of full disclosure, my kids have come up through the Actors Garden, which is a theater program that Anthony Norman also participated in, which is what instigated. I was like, Alan, we've got to have this conversation. This will be so much fun.
Anthony, who is currently Evan Hansen.
He's currently playing
Yes.
Evan Hansen. Yeah, we really talked about it a lot. She is an actress. She does not want to be in musical theater, but she wants
for
to
her.
be an actress.
Smart girl.
Good for her. Good for her.
Yeah, well, she's 13
She
and
wants to be
still
in film, right?
TV or film. Yeah, she's
Okay, good.
That's
still
where the-
in the
that's where the money
mindset
is.
That's
that
where the money is.
it's all just going to magically happen for her. We don't have to actually take acting classes or audition for anything. It's just going to like shine down upon her. So we're working on that part. But so we talked about all the different parts, and there were a couple of other, I mean, we really love the show. The cast is really fantastic, but something about you, it felt very natural, but you were up there working your ass off, and I think she could tell.
Thank you.
And she just was like, I don't know. I really think the mom. And I was like, which mom? And she was like, not Evan's mom. I'm like, oh, okay.
The crying mom.
The crying mom.
The really sad one.
Oh, well, you did. Yeah. Yeah.
No,
I don't
but
know.
no, that means a lot. I think it also speaks to like a level of empathy that kids these days are experiencing and
Yeah.
being able to communicate through, and I've noticed it in my children too, and especially with them coming to see the show,
Mhm.
being able to like absorb that and really empathize with these characters and really feel their grief. I feel like I wasn't really, kids just weren't that intuitive back in the day.
No, or just not encouraged to be. Yeah.
Mm-mm.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For
No,
sure.
and I mean, even now in preschool, kindergarten, and preschool, where my kids are going, they've got this whole, I forget what they call them, but there's like these whole little groups where they're already talking about self-identity and race and different colors and different backgrounds and all this stuff, and so they're coming home, and to them, as it should be, it's no big deal. It's just part
Yep.
of life. We were doing math last night, and Logan, my older one, loves to be asked math problems, and so like he likes to give me like 6-digit numbers to add, 2 6-digit numbers to add together, and so I just stack them on top of each other, and I add column by column, like
Old
we were
school
taught,
way, not
like
new
we were
school
taught
math.
to add.
Yeah.
And so, and he's like, I don't get it. I'm like, what do you mean you don't get it? Because I'm like carrying the one and doing all of that stuff, and I could add
It's
this up real
not
quick,
Common
and-
Core math. That's why he doesn't
and
get
it's-
it.
and he's like, I said, how do you do it? And he's like, well, you take these two numbers, you put them together, and you slide this over, and you put this together, and then my wife looks at me
like a
and she's
Rubik's
like,
cube.
she looks at me and she's like, there's no way we're gonna be able to keep up with the way that they're learning anymore. And I'm like, and it just scares me shitless.
Yeah.
I have to say, the parents at my kids' school, we have to take a math course as the parents.
Oh,
so
wow.
we have it's like at the beginning, I think of second grade or something, because they go to a private school and they do this thing called Singapore math there. And then you as the parents have to go to like the welcome back to school night. And then you also have to sign up for, if you haven't done it, you have to sign up for like the parent Singapore math training so that you can help your kids and you know what's going on. And I can tell you, I had to do it twice for both of my kids. I've never seen a room full of like such successful adults who looked so confused.
Wow.
It's just like all of us are sitting there with our tongues hanging out of our mouths, like looking up at the sky. It was ridiculous. We had no idea what was going on.
I'm gonna have to look that up. I will tell one story and then we will actually get to interviewing you, Lili. But like obviously we could all just hang out. So the next time we're in town together, let's just do that.
Definitely.
We do back to school. Everyone does back to school night. And for fourth grade, which my youngest daughter, I have 4 daughters. My youngest is in fourth grade. She's like, well, I want to show you a math problem. And my kid was so excited. Oh, you're going to have to do our math. Now, one of my dearest friends, her son is also in that class. She is a teacher. She is smart and knows all these things. So they give us this math problem and Rachel gets the answer right away. And I'm in this room with all these parents and I look and I go, how the fuck? And then I'm like, oh, wait. Did I say that? They're all laughing and they were little kids. I'm like, oh, yep, sorry. Like, I don't know. I mean, and Rachel's like, here, honey, I'll show you. I'm like, how did you do that?
It's so perplexing because it's ingrained in us to think of it a different way.
Yeah.
Oh.
Well, that seems like a good lead-in to, right? Like to think of it a different way. Well, this show is all about
that was a stretch. That was a stretch of a segue even for me.
No, I liked it because we think about things in different ways. When we're manifesting creative success, we think of things in different ways than other people do. Don't question me, Alan Seals.
You gotta yes and her. I heard you had musical theater training. Yes and.
I agree. I agree with what you said.
There. Good. Okay. Thank you. So this is, we love to hear people's creative journeys. And I am curious, if we could go all the way back to little Lili, like at what point, what chance presented itself for you that led you eventually to be down this theater path or music path? You play every instrument under the sun.
Well, I mean, I think that like the exposure, first of all, obviously with parents that are like mine who are mainly concert and classical chamber musicians, the exposure to music was from, in the womb. And so, I mean, it was definitely reserved to classical and jazz. I would say I didn't really ever listen to much else as a kid. Jazz was like the let loose, like, ooh, let's put something on that's fun, And so, but so much of jazz is from musical theater, So like all of those jazz hits were all taken from musicals at the time. And so then I started getting interested in those. And, my parents showed me Sound of Music when I was really young, like the VHSs that I wore out to like the point of burning the tape through. And my mother actually wrote, I think, to Paramount or whatever it was, and they sent us a second one, was Sound of Music, the double VHS. And I watched it pretty much every day. That and Babes in Toyland. I don't know if you know that one at all, but it's like Annette, what's her name? Annette Funicelli or something. Yeah. And it is such a kitschy, like campy kind of thing. And I just loved it. So those were kind of like my only exposures to musical theater. But what it was like, oh my God, I get to listen to something other than classical music. Like it was always such a treat, so it felt super rebellious from the beginning. And then I lived in Baltimore. I was born in Boston, and my father, he's the founder of the Boston Chamber Music Society, which is still going strong up there. But we moved down to Baltimore. He took a position at Peabody Institute and taught cello down there for a while. And we were downtown one day by the harbor in Baltimore, and NPR had somebody out there doing a segment on I don't even remember what it was, but I think that I was like, I started singing with a live music band that was there just for fun. And they were like, wait, do this over again. And they recorded me doing it. And my dad was like, all right, sure, this is fun. And I thought being on the radio was like the coolest thing in the entire world. And it was sort of the first time that I had like sang in front of people. And I think I was 5 years old. And I just got like a huge thrill. And I remember just kind of wanting to do that over again, whatever it was. I didn't know what it was, but I just wanted to sing for people. And I guess that's kind of just like the origin story, you know, of getting the bite.
I mean, 5 is pretty magical. We like, I'm just going to start singing. And then people are like, wait, hold on, keep doing
it's
that.
Like, you know, you're young enough that like, you don't have the inhibitions yet. Like you don't have like that self-awareness or that self-conscious feeling. But like, you're old enough to be like, I'm my own person, you know, like really believe you know something.
What were you ever pressured at like that age to get into instruments at all? I feel like by your parents, did they make you do it, or did you feel?
No. So like my parents both came from very strict upbringings with music. I mean, my mother never even learned how to ride a bike because she's a pianist, and it was like, you can't take a chance on doing anything that could compromise your fingers.
Wow.
So she had a really big like void in her childhood in terms of friendship and joy and play, and was, you know, she would come home from elementary school and practice 3 hours a day and do her homework and eat and go to bed. And that was kind of it. And she was born and raised in Seoul in South Korea. And she ended up entering an adult professional. I'm just going to go on a little like family brag because my parents are really cool.
Your parents sound fucking incredible.
And my mother, she entered this competition with like all of these already established professional musicians. And at the time you had to have permission to leave the country. And she was 14 and she won the whole competition. And the prize of this competition was that the president of Korea would give you a visa to leave the country so that you could then go study in America. And like do the country proud, you know? So she came here when she was 15, she came all by herself, went to a private girls boarding school and did Juilliard prep. So she was driven into the city every Saturday. And then she went to Juilliard for undergrad. She got her master's from Juilliard, and she just she came here for like to represent her country on a musical level at the age of 14, all by herself, which I think is just so unbelievable. And she is a force to be reckoned with. She is an unbelievable woman. So they were very much like, we want you to love music. We want you to do, you know, to explore and to cultivate the musical talent that like you obviously have, but they were not stage parents at all. I mean, I took Suzuki cello for, you know, maybe like 4 years. And I played a big Bach concert when I was like 8 years old for a gala for something. And then I put the cello down and said, okay, what's next? And I quit the cello. So it's like, that's kind of, I'm not great at any instrument, but I'm passable at a lot of them.
But wait.
I was curious.
You've performed professionally on the trumpet, euphonium, tuba, piano, percussion, and guitar, yet you're not good at any instruments?
But that's like in a good musical. It's like, I would never be able to pick up one of those instruments and kind of like go to a jam session with a bunch of like rock band or jazz, like real just musicians, not like actor musicians. And I wouldn't be able to like keep up. I'm good when I can practice it, when I can sit home and be like, this is what I need to do. But the ease at which a real professional musician can play their instrument, like first time, I don't have that. I'm very like structured, and I'm really good at making myself practice, and I can like achieve it because I know what I have to do to get there, but I can't just do it at any time.
We're going to take a quick break. Stay tuned for more of the episode. And now we're back.
So of all of your incredible talents, you are so creative and so talented. Which one is like easy? It just rolls off. It's just like this is my home.
I mean, that's musical theater. That's like
Musical theater.
actor, singer, dancer, you know? I mean, I really, really love the actor musician work that I've done. It's been probably the most fulfilling, like all encompassing because, you know, especially as a singer, like you're singing the melody so many times and what's happening underneath you in the arrangement and the score is always really exciting. But when you're not doing that, it's pretty simplistic, you know, what the demands are musician wise for musical theater. And so I loved being in, like, especially Hello Girls that I did off Broadway. I loved doing that show because we got to play three different instruments and we were the band. There were no hired musicians for that show. So there were 10 actors in that show and all 10 of us played and we were the band. And that to me was just like so fulfilling. And that we really worked on ensemble work and, you know, you really had to work together and all of us were actors first too. So all of us were coming from this place of like, okay, I really have to like oil these wheels, you know, and like get these things in my body again. None of us were really used to that.
Going back, I guess thinking back on where you had the choice. Well, was it ever a choice, or did you just always know that you wanted to pursue musical theater? Because I know that you said that like Sound of Music, you wore it out. That's you know what you wanted to do, et cetera, et cetera. Were you ever like, maybe I should get an accounting degree and then as a fallback, or right?
My fallback was always that I wanted to be a doctor.
Oh,
fair.
Of course. Of course.
That was like,
which you probably would have done very well.
I went back to college for a little bit to do a post-baccalaureate pre-med because I just like really loved it. And then I got an acting job and I was like, screw that. I guess I'll just be an actor.
Well, so then in terms
I
of...
used to say that as a little bitty kid. My mom, like really little, 2, 3, 4, 5. What do you want to be when you grow up? And I'm like, oh, well, I'm going to be a singer, but if I'm too good for that, I guess I'll just be a doctor. So we have that in common, except I'm not a professional artist.
I mean, a lot of classical musicians are doctors. Like, I mean, it's a very shared part of the brain, I think, that, you know, that works that way. So it's not uncommon for those to be shared interests.
Well, look at Ken Jeong, right?
Yeah,
right? Yeah. He's literally a doctor and was like, well, I'm just going to go to stand up, and then became an actor. And
exactly.
Like,
I mean, he did it the smart way. He like got the degree to make the money first, and then decided like when he's financially stable, he can choose to take all the chances that make you really poor. So
fair, but okay. So you, at one point, had to have come to a crossroads where you're like, I am going to continue down and do the doctoring thing, or I'm going to continue to audition, right? Like you don't just get a show and decide, oh, I'm going to not do my post-baccalaureate anymore. But because while you're being a doctor or going through that route, you still have to be auditioning and embracing that calling that's in the back of your mind somewhere, right?
Yeah, I think that like, I mean, I just always knew I'll tell you a funny like young kid story. I was in 3rd grade and it was the first time that I could audition for a school show. And I'd never done any acting before, but I was always like just very animated. My parents would film me and they're like, you know, they're sort of these more introverted musicians. And they were like, where did she come from? She's like so weird. and so the school show was Snow White. And my mom was like, great, why did you audition? And I said, oh, great, let's do it. And so I went in and my mother picked me up from school. I was in tears and she was like, oh, did you not get in the show? And I said, no, I did. And she said, what happened? I said, I got Snow White. And she was like, what's wrong? And I said, I wanted to be the evil queen. And
I love that. That's how my actor daughter would feel.
That is a very like, that's just sort of like a staple story that we tell about like, you know, I was never the ingenue. I was never into that. I was always really into the idea of acting for completely going into these like different personalities and exploring these characters. And, you know, when I went to college and I learned about techniques and I learned about backstories and Stanislavski, it's sort of like, oh, that's kind of what I've been doing my whole life. Like, okay, where am I and who am I and what happened to me last year? And like, I was just had a very creative imagination. And so I think that like, knowing that, and my parents knowing that, and my parents also like not wanting to raise a kid with a really strict, they really wanted me to have a life. And there were some times where I could have auditioned for some big things. And I grew up in Westchester. After Baltimore, we moved to Westchester when I was 9. And I grew up close to the city. And there were times when opportunities came about. And my mother always said, no. She was like, you can do whatever you want, but you cannot not have a normal childhood. She wanted me to
Wow.
have these experiences of just normalcy. And she was like, if you're meant to do this, it'll happen later.
There you go.
And I was so mad at her at the time, of course, because that's all I wanted to do. But she said, you can do things if it's like a one night this or something like that, but you're not going to like quit school to do this movie. And you're not going to like go on tour with this new, that was the time when they were forming all those girl bands. It was like auditions for girl groups. And she was like, no way. You kidding? Like, absolutely not.
Are you now glad that she held that firm line?
100%. 100%. Especially as a mom, and seeing like being so privy to the importance of like every social encounter and navigating through the sequence of school, sequence of grades, same environment, different teachers. I just think they're all such invaluable, learning milestones for understanding yourself as a person, which is like kind of the hardest thing to make sure that you can do when you're an adult, And
yeah, it is.
I think that I would have been really lost. And I have some friends who did the child actor thing, and you can see where in their adult lives they have gaps and where things are more difficult.
I've always thought that the child actors, if they get super famous, their maturity level kind of gets frozen at that point in time because people know them as that character in that age, and that's how they're treated, and therefore
they'll
that's
always
how
have
they
to
start seeing
identify
themselves.
as that. Yeah.
Yeah. So I mean, my babies were just the cutest babies, of course. Like, no offense to anybody else listening, but of course, my babies are the cutest. And so I was like, man, these kids need agents. And then at the end of the day, I was like, you know what? This is no. I want them to have like a regular childhood. They can choose to do it. And
I do feel like that's the one exception, though. It's like, as babies, when all they're doing is laying around all day just being cute, like I do wish that I had, put my babies in some baby modeling, made a savings account for them. Like that would have been.
That's true.
I think that's the one excusable part of it all.
So then, fast forward a little bit. You're out of college, and you've got 2 children. You're still doing the acting life, the creative life, and then now you're in a national tour. You're joining us. You're based out of New York, but
yes,
you're coming to us right now from San Francisco. So how is that working? What was that decision process?
Well, and what chance or risk led to this wonderful tour?
I'm going to go back a little because I did stop acting for a while. I had my daughter, and I took her out to do like. It was a long run at Milwaukee Rep. And so I took her out to do a show. It was another actor musician show, really, really fun. But then I came back and I was like, that's rough, doing 8 shows a week with a baby. And then I got pregnant with my second child. And so I said, I'm going to take a break and I'm going to just teach, because I had sort of like a smaller teaching studio at that point for in between gigs. And I said, I'm going to just take off until the kids are in school full time, because it was always really hard for me to justify putting them in daycare to like go audition. Auditioning is that job that doesn't pay anything. So it was like really hard to figure out, okay, I'm going to hire a babysitter or put them in daycare for that, but then I better book the thing. And I think the pressure of like that handoff of not being with my kids and going to those few auditions, I was like, this doesn't feel right. And so I left my agency. I just completely stopped performing and stopped trying in every way for about like 4 or 5 years. And then when I guess this was like 2018, there is a cute little, I was still Equity. So like there's a cute little Equity theater up by my mom's house. And I like to spend some time there during the summer. And they were doing a production of Chorus Line. And I was like, okay, they're having auditions in Connecticut, which is much less intimidating than like going and auditioning in New York, which
Sure.
I, at that point was like, I've been out of the game for so long. I don't feel like I can do that without having a panic attack. Especially having had 2 children and going to like a Chorus Line audition where the dancing is out of control. And so I was like, okay, I'll go to that local audition and maybe I'll just sort of like get my toes wet again with auditioning. And I happened to book it as Sheila, who is like, you know, the aging dancer, which worked really well for me. And
Stop. You are not old. This woman is not old for anybody listening.
No, look at her episode artwork. Not old at all. All right, one more quick break. Hang on a second. All right, here's the rest of the episode.
But, you know, when you're a dancer, like the clock is ticking always because your joints just can only hold on for so long.
Mhm.
And it was great. I did the show. I felt like a part of myself that had been, you know, in hibernation and in dormant for 5 years was able to breathe again. And I really cannot put into words the feeling of that opening night and like being and performing in front of an audience again. My kids were so proud of me. They like being able to share that with them. You know, they came to a couple of rehearsals, and this is pre-COVID. Now kids can't
Right.
come anywhere with you, but you know, I thought it was really something I was going to have to keep separate. But they were so great, and I fully caught the bug. And then I was like, okay, I'm just going to go to a few more auditions, and I booked an off-Broadway thing, and then that led to another off-Broadway thing, and I just sort of followed this journey of with really this idea in mind of like, I want to do something that makes that part of me feel alive again. And so it was never like I want to do something super big. It was never the way that it had been before with having these like crazy ambitions, but it was just like, I want to do work that's going to make me feel fulfilled as an artist. And, you know, they always say like, you never know what you have till it's gone. And it's like, I didn't know how big that void was when I was to not be doing this.
I
So
love that.
it's been a long journey back, but there's a big chunk of time gone. And I have to say that like the excitement that my kids have when I'm performing, they come and see everything. And some of
Aw.
the stuff is inappropriate. And I'm like, oh my God, I can't believe that, you know, my kids came to see me in a chorus line where the chorus line can get inappropriate.
But
But it's not that bad, you know,
No.
but it's like, okay, I just hope that my son doesn't ask me like what the word, you know, masturbation is later or whatever it is. Like he was 5 years old. So
one day he will be
Um,
like, "Oh God, I can't believe I had to watch
exactly.
my mom do
He'll
that."
be like, I can't believe that I saw my mom say these words.
Yeah, he doesn't know what they mean right now. They're just funny words.
Exactly. Well, let's hope that we don't have to have that conversation later down the line. But no,
So
but
then-
I think that having the support from them, you know, like as I said, they were fans of the show before I booked this. COVID changed everything.
Mhm.
They are very empathetic and really kind kids who really want me to be happy, which is just the sweetest thing in the world. I feel like they are the most selfless children. You know, they were so excited that I got this. Of course, they were really upset that I was going to be gone, and it's been hard for
Sure.
everybody. But I think that more than anything, you know, they're excited, and they call me and tell me how proud of me they are. And when they see
Yeah.
something online or whatever, they send it to me, and they're like, "Oh my God, you were on TV," or whatever it is. Like they are wonderful. And if they weren't like this, you know, which they would still be great kids, but if these weren't major qualities of their personality, I don't think I would be able to do this.
Mm.
You know, because as parents, we are just programmed to be guilt ridden. And so I feel like that guilt would have completely taken me over, which some days it does, you know, and especially with the track in the show, it's really hard to separate. You know, I have a girl and a boy, and in the show I have a girl and a boy, and I'm trying to do all the right things, and sometimes I fail. And there are too many parallels to not access real emotions on that stage.
Mm-hmm.
And so if it was not going so well, I think that it would be too hard.
Yeah.
So
I,
I'm very thankful for them.
I have chills just
I
hearing you
s-
say that because as an audience member, I feel that watching you perform it and then knowing what you're experiencing on stage. Just, ooh, sorry, Ellen, go
I
ahead.
saw Dear
No,
Evan
yeah.
Hansen on stage on Broadway a couple weeks after it opened, before the cast album came out. Remember the days like when a show would open and then the cast album would come out?
Yeah, right?
Yeah, and so it hadn't. It was before award nominations, before cast album. Same with Hamilton. Side note. Now that I'm thinking about it, I saw Hamilton before it freaking exploded, which is when the cast
You know
album
what?
was
It's not
released.
cool to brag. I'm just saying. It's not an attractive quality.
No, I'm
No, but
just
what he's saying is
saying.
that he went in blind,
That's
which is
right.
like, we don't ever get to
Uh-huh.
do that anymore,
That's
Right.
true. I know.
which
Yeah,
is
I
the
just like to bust his
coolest.
chops.
I know. But I also like that is a conversation that I love having because going into a show blind is that's when you get that full theater experience, when you feel like your entire body and soul has been like transported.
Mm-hmm. Well, yeah. So the reason I brought that up is the parallel. What you were saying is that it was about 2 months, 2 or 3 months after my first son was born that I saw Dear Evan Hansen, and I left that devastated. I left
Broken,
that show
crumbled.
broken and devastated more than I already was. And I mean, it's a serious subject matter. And how do you shake that? Because you're the mom of this kid who harms himself beyond the point of any repair 8 times a week, and having your own kids that
And
you
he's
don't.
great, by the way.
What's that?
The
Ah.
actor is so great. The
Yeah,
guy who plays
yeah.
Connor. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah,
He
like
really is.
how do you separate that?
You know, I don't ever think of like I don't ever think of my own kids in the roles.
Yeah. That's
So
good.
I have a great relationship with both of the actors who play Connor and Zoe, um, and when I'm up there, it's like when I say it's hard to separate those emotional access points. But like I'm very different from Cynthia Murphy,
Yes.
and my kids are very different from these characters. So like when I'm up there, I'm receiving and emoting as Cynthia,
Hmm.
but it's just sort of like that the vessel
Yeah.
is it's like it sort of feels like I have to crack open these parts of myself as Lily and then hop into Cynthia like really vulnerable. And so then after the show, when I hop back to Lily, it's like, okay, I'm feeling scarred a little bit, but it's like it's not directly applicable to my life. It's
Yeah.
not like that I had to think about my son being like that or my daughter being like that, but it's like the same points in the body, I guess.
Yeah.
So I've been living an extremely vulnerable life for the past
Yeah.
7 months.
I mean, I think that's incredible as a performer, even to be able to know you need to do that and then have the skill to do it and then repair yourself and separate them. They're not the same. I'm not this person. And then do it again the next day or maybe later in the day. It's really remarkable that you can
It's
do
just
that.
really a trial and error because I think it's really different for everybody because it's all about like, my vessel is going to be different than the woman who played it before me. And,
Mhm.
like it's just going to hit everybody differently. For me, I'm a really positive person in real life. Have a lot of energy. Positivity and energy, lots of energy are two things that are hard to um, have simultaneously while I'm doing this show. So, like, I have to be mindful of things like caffeine and things like exercise. And, like, I usually have my worst shows on Tuesdays because we have Mondays off. And I do something great on a Monday. It's like the one day of the week I don't have to cry. And, and it's like
Oh,
I'm
Lily.
glowing with happiness from Monday. And then all of a sudden Tuesday comes, I'm like, oh, I have to just like sink. And then my best shows are at the end of the week when I'm exhausted.
Isn't that fascinating? Because
it's
you
like,
can really
that's the
lean into the
opposite.
character. Yeah.
And that's the opposite with so many other shows. So
Mm-hmm.
many other shows, it's like, okay, we got to like have a lot of energy. And especially I've done all these dance shows and these musician shows that are really physically exhausting. I haven't done a show that's been this emotionally exhausting,
Yeah.
you know, and I've actually never done a show that's for this long of a run.
Yeah. How much
So that's like
longer is the run?
we have about 5 more months.
Okay. That's intense.
Yeah. So it's 1 year. So we're about 7 months through.
I hope you
And
have a
nuts.
big vacation planned, like a really
I
nice.
have a wonderful vacation plan coming up very soon, and I'm really excited.
Well, talk about the chance, the conscious choice you made to take this year and tour, because it's not common for somebody with preteen children to just up and go for a year around the country.
Yeah.
And like they're not with you, right? They're still at home in school and doing their normal thing.
Yeah. And I'm a single mom. So like it leveled up too. So, you know, I have a good co-parenting relationship with my ex, and he moved into my house. And so he is taking care of the kids right now. We have grandmas and family members helping out. Really though, like if my kids were not at this school, it would be a different story. This is a school that teaches the whole child. This is a school that invests beyond that first layer in the children, and you know, is really great about communication. I'm in almost daily communication with a lot of the people at the school. My you know, fellow parent friends from the school who are always keeping an eye out, and at every event are like, okay, I'll be the parent to them at this event, and they are, you know, you can't do this without an amazing support system.
It sounds
It's-
like a beautiful community.
It really
Yeah.
is. It's
Yeah.
it's very rare, and I'm so lucky that they go there, and that they come home happy every day. You know,
Yeah.
like I talk to them after school, and they tell me about their. We have our patterns of
it.
just normalcy, and my son and I like to FaceTime. We don't do it while I'm on West Coast time, but when I'm back in a more similar time zone, we do reading time because
Oh, I love it.
he has to read for 20 minutes every night. And so we've made this deal that for his reading, we FaceTime and he reads to me while I'm getting ready. So while I'm doing my makeup and my wig's getting put on, he'll read to me. So that's like our little tradition that I really love.
When do you find yourself sort of in your most creative state? If you're thinking about your flow state and you're trying to learn lines or learn music or hold on to a dance number, is there something you do to put yourself into a mode where you just absorb all of this more creatively, more easily than any other times?
I think that I'm a very easily distracted person. My mind is like in 10 different places at once, running a million miles a minute. I have to have no technology around me. I have to like, if I'm reading music off of my iPad, I have to turn the internet off. Like I really have to
You turn
give
the
myself
whole
a, like,
internet off. That's
I
crazy.
do.
Yeah,
I
wow.
love that.
I have to give myself like a blank canvas,
Yeah.
because otherwise I'm very easily influenced, you know, like I have I have a reasoning mind, so I could reason anything, but then I don't know what I want or what my artistic inclination is. So I really have to like be alone, turn everything off. I think that that's when I'm the most productive with my art. But
It's
you
so
know,
good
like,
to know that about yourself.
yeah, well, I definitely didn't know this about myself before kids. until I'm like, everybody just be quiet.
Yeah.
And
Yep.
in the world of COVID, having to self-tape everything, you know, there were no auditions for so long. Everything was, you have to tape yourself. And so a lot of people, you know, like, and I didn't have a partner. And so it was just me and the kids at home. And so at one point I remember being like, Annabelle, you have to read this tape with me. And then I listened to it back and I said, that's ridiculous. It's like this young kid's voice in the scene. I was like, it makes no sense. But, you know, a lot of people were doing this with their partner during the pandemic. And for me, it was just hard enough to just like get a time and a space where the house was going to be quiet and the dog didn't try to bark and sing along with me. And like, you know, it's just, So any kind of solitude that I can get, I feel like everything just calms down and the juices can flow.
That's very cool. I as an extrovert, I now value my alone time for that same reason because I love being with the kids and I love giving the energy and doing all of that. But then every now and then I'm just like, you know what? I'm a much better dad when I don't have to
Right.
see you all the damn time.
I was talking to somebody earlier today who homeschools, and I was like, nope. I'm like, you need to go to
Masochist.
school.
Masochist.
You need to go to school. I will see you in 6 hours. Bye-bye.
Yep. Yep.
No way.
Yeah.
I'm like, I love seeing you when you get home in the afternoon, but I don't love seeing you at the same point in the afternoon if I've seen you all day already.
Right. I love to see you again after not seeing you. Absolutely.
Exactly. Absence makes the heart grow fonder. Go to school. Lily, I would love to know. I mean, it is so hard to be in the career that you're in and not have a somewhat healthy relationship with failure. But what is your relationship with failure and how do you sort of process it? And a follow-up question is, has there been something that you thought at the time was a massive mistake or failure and it turned out to be just the right thing?
Yeah. Well, I think that because of the business I'm in, I'm innately like really hard on myself. I, you know, I think that the most creative minds are the most curious ones. And when you're curious, there's a lot that you find out that you don't know and a lot that you find out that you can't do. I think also, just to speak on that really quickly, the nature of self-taping has given a heightened sense of critical thinking on ourselves as actors and performers, because what we do is, especially for theater actors, what we do is sacred to the room. And when there's no room anymore, then you're striving for perfection rather than an experience. And so like, you know, I think the most important thing to know as an artist is that there's no such thing as perfection. And once you can let that go, you know, I'm still working on it. It's really hard. I'm sure you guys know this, especially from podcasting, but like the way that you sound is different than how you think you sound. And that's the same thing. So when you're watching your videos back and you are getting ready to send them, you're like, oh no, that's not what I planned on sounding like. But sometimes it's the right thing. And a lot of times those videos that you're really apprehensive about sending are the ones that book you something. And, you know, so like you have to take a chance on those videos too. And you have to sort of like take a chance in those moments of being just saying, I'm going to trust that this is the right take or the right thing. But for me, it was, you know, my marriage failing, and my parents are divorced and remarried, and two other musicians. They all play together too, by the way. Like all four of them will play. It's
Wait,
great.
Oh, that's cool.
That's very cool. That's
Yeah.
that's a daytime TV movie or something.
I know, right? We need like a family tree to keep
Are
everything
you
intact.
also a writer? Could you write that script? Yeah.
I should. I absolutely should. But you know, I think everybody who grows up with divorced parents says, I don't ever want to get divorced, you know? And so I was really upset when my marriage fell apart and when I realized that it wasn't going to work and when I realized that I was going to be on my own. And, but that all of those realizations and all of that is what led me back to this and led me here, you know? So like, I probably wouldn't have started performing again, or I probably wouldn't have felt the permission to like follow my heart and do what I wanted to do and start to learn how to love myself and take care of myself if I was still trying to like fix this marriage and make all of that work. And I had my daughter quite early, got married really early. And so I still feel like there was a lot to learn about myself that I hadn't done in my 20s because I was in a relationship that was a little in over its head. And being able to kind of like be by myself and revisit that 26-year-old where I left off and say, okay, like, who are you? And what do you want? Because now you can dictate the rest of your life. And that has been the hardest moment in my life and the most fulfilling. So I'm very happy that I went through this horrible thing. And, you know, things always, I really do believe that like there's a reason for everything and everything will lead to something that eventually will make you feel like all of that were all of the pain were like parts of the stepping stones to get there.
I love that.
All of the
I
pain was part of
completely-
the stepping stones to get
Yeah.
there. I'm
Yeah.
gonna get that tattooed on my butt.
I completely agree that it's the icky parts that lead us to the better parts. And yeah, that's lovely to hear you
Yeah,
say.
they also
I really
like create, they
resonate.
also make the parts of you that need to be more resilient
Mhm.
such, you know, they toughen you in those ways to be able to withstand like greater success and, you know, a heavier load of responsibility, whatever it is.
Yeah, that's beautiful. You are
Mhm.
so cool. You are so much fun.
Oh, I love this. This is awesome.
Where can everybody connect with you, find you online, say hi,
I'm
share
I'm on
their feedback?
Instagram at the Lili Thomas because apparently there's another Lili Thomas out there. And that's TheLilithOnas.
One L.
And yeah, I'm like, you know, not up to date on the TikToks and the Twitters and all that. I'm a simple gal. I stick with Instagram and
No,
yeah.
love it. But listen, if you all are somewhere where Lily and the cast and crew of Dear Evan Hansen are going to be performing, go see the show. It's so good. And you just heard that whole crack open perform. Like, it's just magical. I don't know. I want to see you do it again, and then I want to feel what you're feeling. But we could tell anyway. You're lovely, and I
Oh,
just thank you
thank
so
you.
much for taking time.
I have to give a little plug
Oh.
because my father, who I said was the cellist, my younger sister, who is also a cellist, is actually joining our tour in 1 week
Wow.
as our cellist.
That's
So
so
my
cool.
sister
Really?
is going to be in the orchestra. Yes. And it's
Oh, how
so
fun.
exciting for me. And especially like this show that is for me all about family and to be able to have my family with me on the road, but also like to tell this story. The cello part in this score is so beautiful and so featured. And so to be able to like tell the story with my sister about family is really, really exciting for me. So I just had to put that
Oh my
out
gosh,
there really
I love
quickly.
that. And before we go, I do have to ask, did you remember any of those dirty jokes?
Oh yeah.
Oh God. Okay. All right. What is the difference between a golf ball and a G-spot?
I don't know. Do you know, Alan?
Something
we
about
just-
the dimples.
Can we just let her live? Drop
Yeah,
the
go ahead.
punchline?
Punchline,
Yeah,
punchline.
okay.
A man will actually look for a golf ball.
Hey!
And that, folks, is why I'm a lesbian. So that's awesome, Lily. Thank you so much.
Thank you for having me.
Lily is fabulous.
She was so much fun to talk to.
She really was. It was so heart-centered. Like, I felt so much emotion. I had goosebumps through like 2/3 of the entire conversation, and I really want to go see the show again. Now I need to travel somewhere. It's already been to Chicago.
It's fun to me in the interviews that I've done it to talk to a parent a real life parent who plays a parent in the show where something like serious, not something serious, but something not necessarily negative serious, but just like something very emotional happens as a parent, between a parent and child in the show. And when you're reliving that 8 times a week, I think it just like it gives you such a perspective on your own relationship. And
and
I love gratitude, and I just absolutely love to watch, like you said, just watch and listen to these performers who are getting to feel their feels, which there's all sorts of feels when you're a parent, but to feel this professionally and to relive it on stage, and it's I think it's wonderful. I think it's absolutely wonderful.
It's so good. And she is great. What an incredible talent. I think we didn't have enough time to dig all the way in, which I would have loved to. If you can kind of maybe play 6 instruments, like, you're super talented. Like, you do not have to be so good that you could, you know, go play on stage for a large audience immediately to still have crazy, immense talent. I think she's got very high expectations for herself. And
Well, look
Lili,
at-
you're doing
of
a great
course.
job.
Yeah, she's doing great. I wish I could have seen it. If it comes through North Carolina, I'll have to look at the tour schedule because maybe go
Ooh.
visit my parents and go see it
Yeah.
in North Carolina.
You should. That
If
would
it
be
comes
so
back
much
anywhere near
fun.
It's not going to come back in Chicago on this tour, but this
Not-
leg. But if it's
not
anywhere
this leg.
near, then we should go see.
We should go see it. Absolutely. You guys should all go and see it. Lili is she's fun and she's real. And I thoroughly enjoyed that. I'll tell you, I was really touched. It's so true. There was a news article, like scientists have come out and said that girls in particularly are far more inclined since COVID to be depressed.
Huh.
Girls' suicide rates are really high right now. And now, as the mother of teenage girls, I can tell you this has been our experience that through COVID, it has affected all children, I think, really drastically, certainly all people, but especially young girls. And when she talked about that self-filming,
Yeah.
and how, normally you're in a room. I'm the same way. I'm a keynote speaker. And when you have to do them virtually and there are not people there, I do a live show every week called Brave in Action. And if I see an eyeball that tells me there's somebody actually watching, I'm fine. I'm like, oh, I can talk to that eyeball. But if there's no one there and I can't tell, it's very difficult to do. And the perfectionism is real, and it's gotten so much worse since COVID. And I think what she shared there is really powerful.
It's tough performing to a lens.
Yeah.
It is very hard.
Yes.
And I think it takes it. I mean, I heard somebody talking about this the other day. I didn't bring it up with Lili, but when you're doing your own self tapes, you have to be an audio person and a lighting designer
Yeah, you gotta
and
do all
a
your shit.
cameraman.
Yeah.
Yeah, you have to do everything. So you're worried about all that, and it's so hard to just detach and be in the moment. So yeah, I feel it. And then if you've got your young kids running around, and your dog and your sirens because you're in New York City, then all that stuff just makes it. Extra hard.
We built a whole new private room in my house during COVID because there were 7 of us, and we have a small little house. And I was like, I need to get away from these people that I love really desperately.
It's I enjoy seeing you after school as long as you've been to school first.
Exactly. All right. So, Alan, where can people find us and tell us what they think of the show and all that good stuff?
On the Igagrams, Was It Chance is our usernames, and on the Igamails, Was It Chance Podcast at gmail.com. Hit us up, let us know, and let us know you're listening. Say hi. We'll respond, we promise.
Yeah. And if you feel so inclined to write a review, we would be really thrilled. We get really excited. We text each other. We're like, look, they like us. They really like us.
Yeah. They like us. They really do.
All right, folks, you've been listening to Was It Chance, the podcast about embracing opportunity and taking intentional risk for your creative life. Thanks for being here. I'm Heather Vickery.
And I'm Alan Seals.
We'll talk to you soon.
Okay, bye-bye.